This is video number 3 for a property in Radharc Na Baile in Drumshanbo, County Leitrim. So I finished off talking about the chimney defect in video number 2. So now I'm going to talk briefly about the drainage. So I had a good look at the drainage. Now the drainage is it's been built reasonably well, and it seems to be they didn't really spare any expense when they were doing the drainage. You know, they have put in over this here is an access junction which allows access to the drains. You know, they've put in about 10 of them in total around the property, so they have allowed adequate access for rodding and servicing the drains. So I would say the drainage was designed well and no expense was spared. There are some minor issues with regard to the workmanship, and there's one or two of the drains that have blocked locally, but I consider them to be a minor problem. So I would say the drainage in general is in good condition, but I'm going to go through in detail now the problems that I did notice. Now this one here, this is the rainwater downpipe, and there's a rainwater gully here. So this rainwater gully here is full up with water. It's difficult to see in this photograph, but that is full up with water, which leads me to believe that this hopper here, there'll be a hopper in there, a U-bend, that's full up, probably full up with moss from the roof, because there is quite a significant amount of moss growth. So if we go on to the next page, you can see a close-up here. There you can see that it's full up with water. Now, trying to determine how far this blockage goes, basically I have opened up all of the access covers for the drains around the building, and I didn't notice any blockages or any problems. This here seems to me to be a local problem of a blocked gully, probably blocked with again, as I say, with moss, and it just needs to be cleaned out. And it's a simple process, or should be a simple process, of cleaning it out by taking the cover off and then putting your hand down and taking out the moss, and that would normally do it, and it would be a very simple maintenance problem. However, the problem here, and this problem has occurred in a few areas, is the render here. The plinth was rendered, and the render that was put on actually covers over or slightly encroaches on the gully here, and it was not possible for me to lift off the plastic grating. So I wasn't able to lift it off, but I wasn't able to clean out the gully just to see that it is you know, moss, and it can be easily cleaned. So you would have to get someone out to chip off a bit of the plaster so that they can clean it out. I was able to take off this bottom part of the downpipe, no problem, but I was not able to lift up the gully cover. But again, as I say, when I look at the rest of the house, I think this is a very minor local problem that could be solved fairly quickly. Now, at the front door here, there is an echo drain, or a slit drain here to stop driving rain coming in under the door. And there is actually an outlet here connected up to the main drain. Now, they were a bit careless when they poured the concrete footpath. You know, some concrete had fallen into the bottom of this chamber and set, and it had all blocked up. Now I cleaned the whole thing out, and the concrete, I could remove the concrete. I just took it off with a screwdriver. It all came off fairly easily on the echo channel. But this drain here, there's a little bit of concrete that has actually gone down into the start of this drain. Not a major amount. It should still work fine, but it's a bit careless, I suppose. When they were pouring the concrete footpath, they probably just didn't take the right precautions, and they let a little bit fall down in here, and it's going to be difficult to clean it out. So this might be more prone to blockages. It may need more frequent cleaning on account of the fact that there's kind of you know, 10% of the bore diameter is clogged up with concrete. Now it's a minor problem. It's not really an act of sabotage or anything. I just think it was a little bit of carelessness when it came down to laying the footpath. Again, a similar problem here with, this is an access chamber here. access to the junction, and this smaller plastic lid here is actually an access for the radon cover. Now, we zoom in on the next page here, we can see here a similar problem in that when they constructed the plinth, they actually encroached in on the access cover, and I can't get the lid off. So in order to get this was the only lid that I couldn't remove, the only access junction that I couldn't remove for the drains, so I couldn't really inspect it. So again, it would be a case of getting someone out to remove some of the concrete plinth so that you could then inspect this chamber here. It's a similar story with the radon protection here. Now, you may never need this. You only need it if you detect high radon levels internally. So it's only here as a kind of a backup measure if you need it. But I couldn't open it because they were fairly careless about how they formed the concrete footpath, and they have actually poured concrete over it, over part of it. Now, and the other problem I noticed with the drain, you can see here I took off all of the lids off all of the access chambers. There are several access chambers. You know, they didn't spare any expense in terms of providing adequate access for cleaning and rodding. I opened them all. They all look fine. There's no blockages. There's no sabotage. There's nothing going on here. Now, so the balcony is up over here. This is the kitchen. So this is the rear of the property. So this gully here, again, at the downpipe, that gully there is blocked, and there's water ponding in this area. So if we see it close up on the next page, you can see here, there's the water ponding, there's the water level. So this gully is submerged. Now again, I looked at the adjacent access chamber, and the adjacent access chamber is, you know, it seems to be running fine, and there's no blocked drain. So I think it basically, again, the hopper here, or the U-bend at the bottom of this gully, has again probably filled up with moss locally, and it just needs to be emptied. It's probably never been emptied, and it needs to be emptied, and I think that's probably the problem. So it's a minor service issue. But I was not able to lift this plastic cover either, again for the same reason. They have rendered the plinth, and they've overshot, and they've actually cast the plinth is overshot into the gully. So I was able to remove this plastic piece off the end of the downpipe, no problem, but then I couldn't lift the gully, could not lift that the cover, so I couldn't check it. So again, same problem. You need to get somebody out to remove a little bit of the render, and then you can access that drain and empty it out. Now, again, this is just another photograph. I just wanted to show here again that I had opened up all of the access chambers. There's 2 chambers here, there's another one here, there's 3 here at the back. So I've opened them all and inspected them all, and I cannot see any problems with them. They all seem to be constructed well. And, you know, I mean, obviously, as you know yourself, there's no toilets or showers or baths, or there's no second fix plumbing has been installed. So it's difficult for me to test to see whether everything is working well. But on inspection, on visual inspection, everything seems to be designed well and built reasonably well, I suppose, apart from where they have actually, you know, built the plinth over or let's say cast the rendered plinth over a number of the gullies. So there was, now what I did do, because you were all connected up to the same drainage system, I went to speak to pretty much most of the neighbours anyway, and to ask them whether they had any problems or any issues with drainage, because your drains go into the public drainage supply. So there's 2 separate drains, as far as I can tell, coming from your property. One that takes the foul, and that goes out into the access road out here and continues on down the access road. The main drainage line continues on down the access road, down past the council houses, and goes out there. So there's 2 main drainage runs. One of them is for foul, water and one of them is for storm water or rainwater, and you appear to be connected to both of those. So you don't have to worry about septic tanks or soakaways or anything like that. You're connected up to the main drainage system. Now, when I spoke to all of the owners, the ones that I spoke to, most of the ones that I spoke to said they have no problems with drainage. So the main drainage line seems to be working fine. There's no problems with it at all. And the drains of individual houses coming out into the main drainage, connecting into the main drains, they all mostly seem to be fine. However, there was two of the council houses number 13 and 14, they are currently experiencing drainage blockage problems. In that, I went to speak to the woman who lives in number 13, and she said that what's happening is when she flushes her toilet, it backs up. The ground floor toilet, it backs up. Now, because they're council houses, the council was out about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and they jet washed it and cleaned it out, and that resolved the problem. But she said that the problem has now reoccurred, and that she's asked the council to come out again. Now, the problem does seem to be local to her property, as in the problem is from her property to where it connects into the main drain. The problem is in that spur, so it's only affecting her property. But it is an indication, or I took it as an indication, that not all of the drains were done perfectly. There are these numbers 13 and 14 where they've got some problems, and all of the drainage presumably was constructed by the same person. So this house has problems. So, and the problem has probably occurred because they did something that they shouldn't have done. Like, for example, they did not lay the pipes to an adequate fall. They didn't lay them to an adequate fall, and then they're prone to blockages, and that can happen. Now, the one thing I can confirm reasonably well is that the main drainage line is working well and is not prone to problems. And most of the houses, the drains seem to have been constructed well and are not causing problems. But these two houses have had problems. So that's two houses out of 20. So there's, 10%. So the reason I mention it is, although your drains appear to have been constructed well, I can't really check them very well because, let's say part of your drain might be laid a little bit flat and you might have a problem. You might or you might not. You wouldn't know. The drains have never really been tested that way. You can't really test them by just pouring water down, because you would like to, it's the toilet paper and the solids from the waste that can cause problems over time. So that gives you an idea as to the drainage. I mean, I would have said in summary that you're probably not going to have a problem and that it's fine. It appears to be constructed well. No expense has been spared in terms of installing the correct amount of access points. The only thing I can't confirm is whether they have laid it to a correct fall. And as I say, there does seem to be two houses where they haven't done the best job. And that's kind of the best I can do for you on that one. So again, that's just another view showing that all of those drainage runs, when I lifted up the access chambers, they all seem to be constructed well and constructed to code. The other thing that I did notice here, this is the ground floor bathroom. I'm not sure why they have 3 stacks actually, because the drawing shows one toilet and one sink. So I'm not sure why they have 3 stacks, whether they were planning to put something else in here, like a shower or something. I'm not sure what's going on. But I did notice, like these ones seem to be clean. I just took a look down in them. This one here contains a small little bit of detritus from, it seems to be like plaster debris that they let fall into here. So if you look in the next, you can see here, there's a small little bit of plaster down there. So, before you connect up your plumbing services here, I would clean that out because it may cause a blockage. But that's the only point where I've noticed anything, that was in the drain. You know, the rest of them seemed clean and they seemed fine. I know you were slightly worried about possible sabotage. I can't see any evidence of that, neither on the drainage, plumbing, or on the water supply, or on the electrical works. I can't see any sign of it at all. So I'm going to finish off here. The last thing I want to say about the drainage is, you can see here, that's your house here. So this is the access road. And you can see here, you have one manhole cover here, and adjacent here, you have another manhole cover. And basically what that tells me is that there are two main drainage lines coming down here. One on this lid and one on this lid. The reason they've put the access chamber here is because the sewers will change direction at this location. They'll come down the road here, change direction, because the road changes direction. And that's why they have two lids, because there's two sewers. So there seems to be a separate foul and a separate storm. And there's no reason to see why you shouldn't be connected into both of them. So you should have two separate systems coming into one storm and one foul. Okay, that's the end of the drainage. So I'm going to finish this video here, and I'll continue on in video number 4 and talk about the screed.